There was no like executive decision, I'm going to make
Yeah,
this band. It was more me and Joe knew what we wanted to make, we knew what kind of sounds we wanted to do, and we were fortunate enough to run into these two lovely fellas and then rinse them in interviews with Enemy.
Hello, I'm Ali, and I'm here with Lovejoy for the latest in Enemies in Conversation series. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Amazing.
How's tour been?
Good. Exhausting.
But very rewarding.
Exactly. It's the best kind of exhaustion. I'd say it's languorous exhaustion.
Nice word.
Thank you.
And it's been a big year for the band. Obviously the EP came out earlier this year, number 5 in the official album charts, big festival slots, obviously massive headline shows. Like, how's everything feeling in the band? How is everyone?
Yeah, we're coping.
It's validating. It's incredibly validating to see all our hard work come to fruition in a mainstream traditional sense. Fruition, I guess, for us was the moment we finished it.
Yeah.
But to see it being loved and adored as much as we put into it is very validating and rewarding.
Could you kind of tell that you kind of done something special with that record?
I listen back to it a lot, which is a very good sign.
I have to revise every now and then.
Revise? I don't need to revise. For me, it's Portrait of a Blank Slate into Call Me What You Like is one of my most proud writing I've done, I'd say, and I think that is echoed by the boys too. So yeah.
I mean, why do you think that kind of record's connected with people in the way that it has done?
I say how I've always gone into writing and production in any creative media is that I've always wanted to make something that I think needs to be in the world. So, for instance, I've always wanted a kind of punchy, like, bass-driven song about, not understanding where you fit in the whole structure of romance. So it's quite hard to find that exact topic. So I decided to make it myself, with the boys. And I think that's why it's connected so well, is because I've been honest in my lyrics and for what I want to hear.
Amazing. Have you had any other highlights of the year so far?
Highlights. We played a show in the middle of the desert. It's called Pioneer Town. It's like a big cowboy town. It's
Nice.
really cool. We got to dress up and all that. It's very fun.
Lollapalooza Chicago for me. That was the biggest crowd we've ever had, I think, by quite a way. And it was surreal looking out over 10,000+ people. It was crazy.
10+ people. It was definitely 10 people there.
I ran out of fingers, so...
Yeah. We did a head count.
Are you kind of getting comfortable playing for that many people? Was it when you walked out, was it like, or you're like, I got it?
I was shitting myself, I won't lie. The smaller shows, like the under 1,000 cap ones now are significantly easier after that, but yeah, they all still make me a little bit nervous, I won't lie.
I don't think I'm ever going to lose that that buzz
Yeah.
before you go on stage, and I don't think I ever want to.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes it's more overpowering than others.
Amazing, but you're not slowing down yet. Obviously, there's a new single, Normal People Things, out by the time this interview airs. So yeah, talk to us about where did that song sort of come from?
That song's about finding someone who ironically isn't normal. And that rare connection you get where you go, oh damn, you're different in a good way.
What do you want that song to kind of mean to other people?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So this one's hard for me because, like I said, all the songs I write are for myself. First and foremost, it's a happy medium, having the reaction being so positive back. I'd say I want people to take from it a dancey, fun, exciting rock song that people want to get up and join in the movement, I guess, is the takeaway.
Yeah, it's not the longest song in the world, so it's a bit of like an explosion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which we haven't really got in our discography as of yet.
No.
So,
Also like 2 minutes 10.
Yeah.
Which is very short.
Yeah.
So we said everything we
Straight
needed to
rock and
say.
roll.
Yeah.
Is that, you're at the point now where you're kind of writing songs, it's like, oh, we kind of need to feel this vibe in the set or kind of this mood?
Absolutely not.
No.
Our writing is always the art first.
Yeah.
It's we we write, the length is just entirely down to how long the song needs to be.
Sure.
And that song only needed to be 2 minutes or so. If it had more elements I wanted to touch on, it would have been longer. But I like the simplicity of the subject, and I like the punchiness and the explosion of the outcome.
And sort of coming back to the idea of like what you want people to get from it, are you kind of starting to think about that a little bit more, or is it still very much quite a not self-indulgent, but kind of quite a personal endeavor before you kind of start thinking about other people?
Absolutely. I don't think we're ever going to get to a stage where we're writing for other people. You know, I feel like the music has always been about us and our experiences, and lyrically, especially heavily into my experiences. And I like to think that's how it'll always be. That's how it's been. I've been writing songs for going on 6-7 years, you know, so I hope it stays that way forever.
Have you been sort of tempted to have you found yourself writing me like, this isn't how I feel, I'm just kind of writing for...
Oh, absolutely. yeah. It's hard to bring pen to paper sometimes when you're writing, especially if the muse isn't there, you know, you haven't got the creative energy in you at that moment, but you still want to write. That's something, I've actually written a song about that exact thing, about that feeling of I want to write, but I can't turn my brain on, you know, which is quite common for me, especially with like the stress of being on tour. It makes it difficult, but it's a new experience we're learning about.
Yeah, have you found kind of much time to be creative? Because you've been on the road a lot this year.
Less than I'd like.
Yeah.
Less than I like, but we found time, and I'm really happy with what we've managed to write on this tour. In fact, it's probably one of my favourite batches of releases we've done.
Now, this song, is it a nice way to underline this year, or is it kind of leading into a new era sort of thing?
I don't like to cap anything I do.
Yeah.
I like to leave everything open-ended as to what's going to come next. I hope that it weaves a tapestry that is rich and fruitful for everyone.
Are you thinking debut album now, or are you...
Debut album is something that is constantly being thrown around by us. I mean, it has to be done. It's not an if, it's a when. However, the when right now is very undefined.
Are you finding that the more, because it feels like an ongoing thing, I feel like as soon as you release the first EP, people are like, so when's the album coming out? And with every EP it's like, yay, when's the album coming out?
Yeah, we've been getting that since 2021 when we released Are You All Right? People were saying, when's the album? And back then it was, no, we're not ready, we haven't got our sound. Whilst now the answer's a,
Are you kind of, is there a pressure? Do you feel kind of going into the album being like,
no, not at all. I'm very excited to write it. I don't, a pressure,
Yeah, Ash was just saying, he doesn't speak. He only speaks to us. But he was saying, you know, we want to do it, the desire to create something which is a bit more sort of full in terms of a body of work is always something that we've wanted to do individually and as a collective. So
I think one of the biggest things I've learned on this journey is how EPs are absolutely great for finding your sound, but they're not so great for telling stories.
Yeah.
I would love to tell a story in a 4-track burst, but I feel like each track would be about 12 minutes long if I did so. So an album where I can itemize my thoughts and, you know, put that down into words whilst having the boys doing their magic over the top is very exciting to me and not stressful at all. I won't let pressure get to me in terms of that.
I guess kind of looking back, you know, when you first started, what were your kind of ambitions when you released that first EP?
What were your ambitions, Joe? Because mine were entirely to create music that connects people,
Yeah.
makes people want to come out and sing along with us live, and you know, shout it in their bedrooms as I've been doing since I was a little kid. How about you?
It is similar, just to have songs that resonate with people, that stand the test of time as well. You know, but it is also for me personally, like to be able to build up to like something a little bit bigger, whether it be that album or Wake Up and It's Over. Like I would never have dreamed that we would create Wake Up and It's Over in its sonic state when we wrote Are You All Right? So
That's the growth.
That's the growth, and I love it. I love to see that.
Yeah, I suppose, although the message to ourselves is very important in our music, the takeaway we want I think the volume is more important than the message for the takeaway. If people come away from listening to our music with, yes, I want to play that loud, I want to scream the words, they don't even have to know what the words mean. As long as they get that energy that we're putting into it, that's the takeaway I want.
Amazing. I mean, and who were those bands when you were growing up that kind of made you want to play music loud and shout along?
For me, it was always Los Campesinos.
Yeah.
They've been my
love them, don't
favourite band since I was the littlest kid, and I've followed them all over. I've done what the people outside are doing right now, queuing to come and see us, and it's been, it's very humbling to have that happen back for me. Los Campesinos are by far and away my biggest inspiration, by a huge degree. I know Mark cites heavier influences.
Yeah, man. Yeah, anything with a bit of double kick in. But my poor parents had to discover that from when I was about 8 to 10. I was discovering metal and turning it really loud in my room because it sounded sick, and they hated it. But yeah, just pulling influences from all different parts of music is kind of what I think makes our sound kind of unique. It's cool.
How about you, Joe?
I love the Arctic Monkeys, Two Door Cinema Club, just like loads of UK British bands in around 2000s, 2010s. I was just listening to it all. I think I might have saw someone here. I can't remember who. I think it might have been.
I saw Los Campesinos.
I think I saw.
I got told off for standing up. They have the seating area, so I had a seating seat.
Too tall.
I spent the entire time standing up and shouting the words. Security kept telling me to sit down. I got told to sit down like 4 times in the end. You know the band.
Pixies.
We know this.
Yeah. Oh, you know. Yeah.
Ash likes his 90s rock going into the late. Yeah, Ash likes his old people music. Ash likes his 1920s flapper. Yes, he's gotten really into to just percussion on its own. A single snare drum being hit at 40 BPM. That's his jam right now. I think one of my favorite things about Ash is that he can't argue with me about. He's into something called Goblin Core, which he's obsessed with.
You're obsessed with Goblin Core.
We can't stop him. We can't stop him. What's the one? We Are the Ants. He loves that one. That's his favorite one. You can't stop him. Every day. It's his alarm clock on the bus. It's crazy.
You mentioned like obviously the fans outside and stuff like, and obviously you did that when you were younger. I mean, what is it about kind of music in general that kind of you think inspires that kind of sense of community and that sense of like, it's not just turning up to a gig and singing along for like an hour and a half. It's kind of that, you know, meeting your friends in the queue, kind of talking online, sort of really being absorbed in the whole world.
Absolutely. I feel like it's the emotional connection. We're heading into a scary world where although everyone's much more connected, it's far harder to find that connection. Which I cite in Wake Up and It's Over a few times. The opening line for Call Me What You Like is, I never was a fan of the internet, which is pretty on the nose. Yeah. And I find that music is the great communicator. It is the bridge that binds people back together, that we are being rifted apart, asunder by the internet.
For sure. And I know, obviously some people probably know you from sort of YouTube or Twitch sort of before the band. And I know kind of because of the pandemic and stuff, you kind of made it online before, like you could play gigs and stuff. Mm-hmm. Was there ever that sense of like, oh, we need to prove ourselves as like a real band? Or have you never really had that?
Yeah, there is always the feeling that I need to prove myself, but there's always going to be haters. And there's always going to be people who don't know the full story. You know, when I was doing my online Twitch streaming and YouTube, I was still writing songs. Yeah. I've had a solo acoustic career going on since 2019, way before the pandemic, a year before the pandemic. And I used to play busking over in 2017, 2018, open mic nights around that same time. So the sense of needing to prove yourself comes from the fact that the most notable takeaway that people, when they look at you, is go, oh, YouTuber, right? But that's not entirely the case. Yeah. And I'll never want to leave behind the work I did in YouTube and Twitch. But this is where I want to be now.
I think you can tell from the gigs and the kind of the music in general that it is kind of, it's not just like we know him from the internet. It's a deeper emotional thing like we were talking about earlier. Like
I hope so. Stuff. I hope so. I think that's the longevity test, right? And we'll see. We'll see. I'm just going to keep making stuff that I'd want to hear.
I mean, what made you want to start a band then, rather than kind of continue the solo thing? What is it about this dynamic that's kind of so inspiring?
I always knew I wanted to make rock music. Me and Joe were originally in a folk band, and I remember very clearly me and Joe together going to the lead singer and asking him, can we write some rock songs, some indie rock songs? I think we specifically cited the Arctic Monkeys, at which point the singer responded, he didn't really like the Arctic Monkeys. And when that band sort of drifted apart, as a lot of bands unfortunately do, me and Joe stayed connected throughout the end of our time at university. And this is long before Twitch and YouTube all started doing that. And we sort of made a pact that we would regroup and we would write these rock songs we wanted to do. So it kind of came organically. There was no like executive decision, I'm going to make this band. It was more me and Joe knew what we wanted to make, we knew what kind of sounds we wanted to do, and we were fortunate enough to run into these two lovely fellas and then rinse them in interviews with Enemy.
Has playing live sort of changed things for the band at all?
Oh yes.
Yeah, changed them. Yeah, but not in a negative way in any sense. It just, I think we're closer now than we were. We're like Will says, we're like a little family, like just annoying each other and all of that stuff.
I can be mean to Ash, but if anyone else tries to be mean to Ash, I'm jumping them.
It does kind of feel like British indie's in a really good place right now. You know, you've got bands like Last Dinner Party, Wet Leg. Like it feels new, it feels exciting. I think you're very much part of that conversation. Like, do you kind of feel part of that scene? Do you kind of feel inspired by kind of other bands that are kind of coming up at the moment?
I really, really want to.
I think we're definitely inspired by them.
I
don't know if we're
really
a part
want
of
to be
it.
seen as that. If that is a goal, I think, to be in the conversation. We're trying our best. We're like you said, we're trying to prove ourselves as much as we can that we want to be part of that conversation going forward. And I hope that the quality of what we're outputting lives up to the standard, the incredibly high standard that Last Dinner Party and Wet Leg, as you cited, is setting right now.
I mean, why do you kind of think, you know, it's a conversation that's been had time and time again, but like guitar music is kind of having a moment and kind of feels exciting at them.
It always comes back in waves, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'd probably be proven wrong by some far more intelligent music. There's some far more smart music theorists who would know the answer to this. But for me, I would again, as a pandemic band, put it down to the pandemic being locked away, wanting to feel that almost honest rawness that an analog amp is going to put out. You know.
Do you kind of feel sort of really confident in where you are at the moment and where you can go with this?
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. This is, I feel like we're on an incredible foundation. It's a foundation or a trajectory, however you see it. I feel like we're starting from a good point if you were to start right here. And we're really happy to keep going. Yeah.
Do you feel like you've kind of figured what you needed to figure out, like with the EPs and stuff?
It's hard to say because it's not a conscious decision.
Yeah.
It very much organically came to be. So maybe it'll change again. We're never going to close ourselves off from new ideas.
And obviously when you started out, your ambition was to kind of connect with people. Obviously now you're playing these massive shows, you're kind of charting. Have your ambitions changed at all? Have they kind of grown? Like where can you kind of see this going?
My ambitions are still connecting with people.
Yeah.
I think that's almost a lifelong goal. I think, you know, once you connect with, you know, 1 million people, you're going to want to connect with another million. I don't know. That's what means the most to me. I don't know if it's different.
Concur.
Mark, what about you?
I think for exactly what you said with how many. I love the idea of the live version of that. How many people can you fit in one room? So then it's like, is it a 2,000 cap? Is it a 4? Is it a 5? Is it 10,000 cap? Is it 20? Where do we stop? That terrifies me. I'm scared. But I'm also very much looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be
The numbers are a reflection of the lives you've impacted, I always think, and that's very exciting. I mean, Mark told me one of his goals and dreams is to just see other people learning drums through
and
inspired
to hear
by
how
you.
many people have picked up drumsticks because they heard Lovejoy is like insane. Like, holy shit, that is. I can't even explain that feeling. It's crazy.
Mark will sit backstage just signing drumsticks for ages to throw into the crowd.
So hard writing on them, man.
Yeah,
That's so
they're not made for that, are they?
I'm getting good at it now, finally. But,
you know, like broadly speaking, is that what you want Lovejoy to kind of represent, to be that inspiration for people?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It can be whatever people want it to be.
Exactly.
To the people.
To them.
Yeah.
We give it to the community and see what they take from it.
Yeah. We don't see this band as a set of clear goals defined on a corkboard, more so a broad feeling of this energy and this love we want to put out, and what we're receiving back is monumental and so affirming, and it's great.
Does that kind of relationship kind of spur you on then to kind of keep putting out more and kind of, I guess, giving more of yourself, pushing yourselves a little bit further? Absolutely.
But even if there was, you know, less or even none, we'd still be doing
fun,
this.
yeah.
We'd still be doing this in dive bars in the middle of Brighton. We'd still be there.
And I guess lastly, I know you love an Easter egg. I know you kind of love teasing things with the fans.
He's the Easter egg eater.
I mean, is there any words or phrases you kind of just want to get off your chest?
Maybe we can say it.
No, hold on, boys, hold on. I got it.
Maybe we can say it later when we're sober.
I don't know, man.
Just gotta make sure we look good,
We're not drunk. He's heavy-handedly.
I'm trying to do something.
I know what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to do a thing, but you know, it didn't really work out.
That's the problem. That's
what happens when you try a thing.
That's what happens when you try and make an Easter egg joke.
Yeah,
that's why we leave it to Ash. Problem is he can't talk.
Easter egg, dude. Give Easter.
Here you go.
Thank you very much.
You've seen it. You don't need to hold it.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you for having us. It was an absolute pleasure.